Okay, short intro volume 2, because we are talking about the part 2 of our OS2 journey. So we discussed some of the previous versions of OS2 prior to OS2 Warp, and most of them were also aptly named after various Star Trek characters and various, let's say, species names, Riker, Borg, Ferengi, whatever. After which came probably the most important OS in the stable, which was the version 3.0 OS2 codenamed Warp. And following on our previous episode, let's continue with discussion about this version. And when I say that this was probably the most important version, I was talking in two different directions, because it's both for the good and the bad of it, that it's the most important version. And when I say bad, I mean really, really, really IBM bad when we're discussing this. So stay tuned to hear the story. So this is a new episode of That IT Show podcast. And let's roll the intro. Okay, you're looking sharp and crisp. What's up?
Yes, it's late enough that I'm wake up enough, or I have woken.
The sleeper has awakened.
Yes, I had my beauty sleep in the afternoon, and now I'm ready for the new revision of the show. And before we even start, I'm going to say that I don't think that you mentioned the most important version of OS2.
You mean from the old days or from the new days?
From the old days, because I think that we're comparing feature to feature, probably the version that came out right before the Warp was the most important one, because this was the 2.11 SMP.
No, okay. We actually discussed that in the previous episode for
yes, but
time.
I want to just to mention it once again, because we just went over it pretty quickly. And it was one of the things that actually made a big difference, because it was able to support up to 16 CPUs. And this was one of the first operating systems that was intended for, let's say, prosumer market, or however IBM defined it in that particular case, that was actually capable of supporting multiprocessing, and supporting multiprocessing by actually supporting it, not by just pretending that there is a second CPU that is there. And this is what Windows did back in the days.
Okay, so that's version 2.11, if I remember correctly.
2.11, yes. It was the last version of 2.11 that came out a couple of months before Warp.
Okay, yeah, this is, again, harping on a topic that we covered the last time. One of many reasons why OS2 Warp is so important in the history of operating systems, because it brought so many of those firsts in terms of the technologies that it introduced to the market, but not only introduced in sense of fakely introduced, but really introduced. Real multitasking and many other things that we discussed in the last week's episode. So yeah, 16 CPUs supported for the time being at 1994. That was a huge deal in terms of the just pure technological achievement that's behind it, if nothing else.
Yes, but what they did is in a couple of months, or okay, let's say a couple of years, because they started supporting stuff that was important, let's say in the end of 1992. What they did is that they actually included support for things that became more common much later. So PCMCI support, they were able to support different binaries. So Windows 3.11 binaries combined with OS2 binaries, be combined with those binaries. They got drivers was S3 before the Warp. They also introduced the concept of service packs, because the service packs were used back in the day only on mainframes, basically. Because the service pack concept was something that was done for the Unix. And then, because it was an actual pack, to be completely honest, it was a pack of disks, but they introduced it to the mainstay operating systems. And I think that it is funny when you think about it, IBM both changed the idea of what the operating system could look like, because I think that it heavily influenced Windows 95. And I think that Windows 95 was by itself a byproduct of Microsoft being a little bit scared of what can happen if IBM succeeds.
Okay.
This is one of the things. And the other thing is that the irony is that at the same time, IBM also contributed heavily towards the notion of a big company not being able to actually produce an operating system. Because if you remember, way before OS2 came out, there was that book, Mythical Man Month, about the development of IBM 360. And more or less, whatever is taught today when it comes to project management connected to anything software related, it's usually cited as one of the books about the software development. So the principle of the second system, there is no silver bullet scenario, and so on and so on. And it's amazing that the company that actually created this book, that managed to say this is the book to learn from because we know what we did, then more or less recreated everything that they did with OS2 exactly as the book said it shouldn't be done.
Actually, you reminded me of something, although we are surely going to come to that topic near the end of the episode, when you said that it could run various types of binaries. This is something that, this is a story that actually continued all the way to the present age. When ArcOS was introduced, which is the latest revision of OS2. You can actually buy it right now. The latest revision came a couple of months ago. It actually runs OS2 applications, 16-bit Windows applications, DOS applications, loads of ported Linux applications, some of the 32-bit applications, Java applications, Qt-based applications, so QuickTime, Rex applications, if you remember that programming language, which was popular on IBM as well, and many more different types of binaries, which is insane, because almost there is no OS probably in the history of mankind that supports as many binaries as ArcOS does today.
It doesn't. Okay, it is a little bit strange when it comes to support for everything possible, but on the other hand, I can see the reason why.
Okay.
And the reason why being since the main target is basically banks, or to be more precise, ATM machines and then banks. I think that the thing that they need to support is Rex, because it was important in banks. So if you are able to run it on modern hardware and you are able to run Rex applications from, let's say, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and that were designed for mainframes, this is a huge deal.
Yep.
This is a huge deal, especially given the idea of the OS not costing that much. ArcOS for personal usage, but I was just checking
$150.
It's $140. So that's not too much.
It's way more than Windows.
Yes, but when it comes to A, compatibility, and B, dealing with banks, this is peanuts.
Yeah, although the really supported version is $249, if I remember correctly.
Yes, $249, but even that, if you are running it on a modern server and you want to support everything, this is nothing compared to what you would pay to get all those utilities ported.
Okay, basically, let's do a little bit of a snippet of the future. How about we try to run that? Let's put it this way. Let's call this your way belated second birthday present. I get us a ArcOS, the bigger license, and you run that and then report on it.
What I'm going to do, I'm first going to go the cheapskate way, and I'm going to just out of the blue ask the guys from Marcanoa, show them this and say, okay, I want to run it, and then we'll see if we have to buy it. If we do, I'm completely fine with it, because I'm going to stand behind my words and say, okay, well, even if it's bad, I'm going to run it and then say, okay, it's bad. But as you know me, you know that you wouldn't be too much surprised if I just turned it into my main operating
Yes,
system.
exactly
And
the
run it on my
reason
primary
why I
hardware.
suggested it. I want to see that in action.
Because
You're
if
much more inclined to do these sorts of things, a little bit of let's call it a little bit of beta testing than I am, and I appreciate that, but I just don't have the time. And you are much more easily amused by that.
But the thing is that I'm not even into beta testing anymore. Now I'm interested only in alpha tests.
Okay, even better.
So because alpha tests are something that is what is happening when you are turning on Windows Preview.
Okay.
So if you go to Windows Preview channel, you are going to get something broken either way. But if I must say, from what my 30-year experience with the different operating systems has taught me, is that in the last couple of years, the quality of the systems that we are using dropped so significantly that there are no big differences between alpha, beta, and the release channels.
I agree.
Running something like Chrome Canary, so the bleeding edge version of the Chrome, isn't that much different than running actual production Chrome. The only thing that is happening is that when something breaks, you sometimes get to know why, because some of the developers just say, okay, we broke something because we
Tested
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and in the production version, something breaks and you don't know why.
Actually, to add something to that story, both you and I are Apple users in terms of laptops and iPads. Did you perhaps update your iPad Firefox to the latest version?
Not yet, I think. No, not yet.
You should, because you're going to find a significant difference in the UI of Firefox with the latest revision on iPad. And when I say a significant one, it is one small little niggly detail that you're going to find to be very annoying, and that's going to piss you off heavily. Because when you're running Firefox on iPad, the refresh button, so if you want to reload the page, used to be on the left-hand side. Now it's on the right-hand side. If you have a habit of using Firefox on iPad, like I do, then usually you do it blindly. It's an automated thing that your fingers just do, and then you usually press the home button where the refresh button used to be.
I must say that I haven't even used a refresh button once on my iPad, because what I'm used to do from an Android is that I just try to swipe down and see the refresh, and this is going to work. So I know that this way of refreshing works, so I'm completely ignoring the button. It might not exist as well as I care.
Actually, just to add one more thing, I've noticed as I was going through the documentation for ArcOS while we are shortly on the topic of ArcOS, because before going back to original topic, I noticed that in their documentation they're stating that they're actually offering ArcOS supported as a virtual machine as well. Okay, VirtualBox, VMware, and Virtual PC.
I think that what we are dealing here with is that however operating systems may be or may look like they're too old to be used, as long as there is an actual market, those OSs are going to be working. Because even if people are prepared to support Linux in different, I don't know how many versions are there right now, something like 2,500 plus distributions, why shouldn't there be an operating system that is completely different from everything being supported, especially when they have a obviously viable financial plan?
Actually, I was thinking in a completely opposite direction when I was considering this today, as I was reading about some of the OS2 news in the past, let's say 15 years or so, after they dropped the initial support for all of the old versions in 2004, 5, 6, whatever it was. A lot of time passed, nothing happened, and then ArcOS and some intermediary things happened. But what I was reading about was the fact that basically you have all of the modern features of the OS, And I was kind of reminded of where it all started from. Is this full circle that we are seeing? Are we going to see some kind of a, let's say, 2 or 3-way fight yet again for the operating system market? Because literally what you said, the operating systems are not as good as it used to be.
I think that what we are seeing right now is a big fork, because what is happening is that Windows is slowly approaching Linux as something that is actually part of the operating system. They have slowed down that approach. It was much more obvious a couple of years ago when they launched
WSL
subsystem for Linux. And they haven't been that aggressive with introducing new features in the last couple of months, or in the probably last year. But first, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue this approach. So if they actually integrate the support for running different binaries into Windows. And from there, there is just a small step to introducing running any other binary in Windows. Because what do you need to support? You want to support Linux, you want to support Android, and you want to support Windows, and that's it. Right now, if you want to get the majority of the market, you can do that. Linux is able to do this through Wine, and it is able to do support for Android through different emulators. So actually, operating systems are not going to battle for the market. I think that they are already there, because they are going to look so much alike that we are going to just use a different kernel and then a different skin over it, because you're probably not going to care if you are running on Linux, Windows, or Android.
You think?
Yes, I think that the only thing that is not going to happen is Android running Windows applications.
Okay, I understand you. Why you want
and
to
this is
think
simply
that,
from the security standpoint, because they are trying to preserve the operating system itself. So the Chrome OS is probably not going to be able to run Windows.
Okay.
Chrome OS being able to run Linux, I think that this is going to happen, and this has already happened. Linux running on ARM, yes.
That's
Windows running
working
on ARM, yes. It's just the timing. And I was just today talking with the students, and we were trying to establish why and what is happening with the Windows and on the ARM, and what is happening with Microsoft. Because Microsoft is obviously, I wouldn't say stopping the development, but it is holding down the development of Windows on ARM, because they have everything ready. They created the Windows 11 for ARM. They created the entire ecosystem of Visual Studio and all the different development tools and so on.
Had it for years.
And yes, and they just stopped.
Okay.
So they're keeping it current, but not announcing it too much, not talking about it too much, but just saying, okay, we have this thing that is waiting in the background, so when we need it, it's prepared.
Yeah, we talked about it in a couple of episodes, and this not being a Microsoft episode, going back to the IBM story, basically when they introduced Warp, they introduced a heck of a lot of new available features, and especially with some of the, let's say, next subversions or upgrades that came after that. So they had internet access kits, way better hardware support. It was compatible in terms of the binaries to Windows 3.11. Then they also introduced networking support, even peer-to-peer networking. That was already supported in 1995, man. I mean, peer-to-peer networks are still being used today, but for less than legal reasons. And after that, they also introduced a PowerPC version, which was a first hint at something that IBM wanted to make a future, which was OS2 everywhere, basically on all of the architectures that were present at that particular point in time. And there were quite a few, actually. There were many more different vendors of various CPU architectures than there were today, than we have today, literally speaking.
Okay. Now, I only remember from just reading the materials about the OS2. The only thing that I remember is that the big thing that IBM did way back then was that they tried to switch to different kernels. They were trying out different kernels that were doing the job underneath the system, and they chose the idea of PowerPC to be able to use the Mach microkernel that was later used in different operating systems.
Yeah, BSDs and OS 10 and whatnot.
Yeah, so what they did is that they actually introduced the concept of having an operating system that looks the same, but underneath the hood behaves differently and tries to emulate each other. So they tried to create an ecosystem that would work, and I think that one of the biggest things is when they switched to the next iteration of Warp, when they actually split the system into two, when they created the desktop and the server version, because this was the before Microsoft actually released the server and the desktop as the separate things. Microsoft was hinting at you being able to do a server and do a desktop, but they didn't separate the products themselves. They created separate products, but I think that the market way back then wasn't that clear about what Microsoft was doing. And IBM was very clear.
Yeah.
They said, okay, this is a desktop product and this is a server product.
And actually, while we're on the story of the original version of the Warp, so version 3.0, there is that funny story of what happened when Paramount guys knocked at IBM's doors about using Warp as a code name for something. And they were supposed to have that big event when they were supposed to launch Warp. And Patrick Stewart from Star Trek was supposed to be, one of the distinguished guests. Then they had to switch that to Kate Mulgrew. She was the star of the Voyager series, which didn't actually start filming yet, which was a weird event. But at the end of the day, they were forced to change the whole marketing scheme to Warp being something warped, like some curl.
And this is
IBM being IBM.
No. I have absolutely no idea where this one came out of, because when if you take a look at what were the names of different versions of OS2,
it was all Star Trek.
No, they started with CP-DOS, then they called it Trimaran, they called the user interface Windhorn, then they called it Sloop, then Cutter,
and then
they actually released something called limited availability. Okay, then Cruiser, and then suddenly Riker, Borg, Ferengi, and then Warp.
I would argue that Cruiser is actually also related to Star Wars, but okay.
Oh, okay, but this one is okay.
Arguably.
It can go both ways, but Riker, Borg, and Ferengi are unmistakably Star Trek.
Yes.
So I have absolutely no idea why they did this.
Because
what happened in the 1992 that made IBM just switch over and try to grab a name from the TV series?
Well, I remember those days very well. Actually, the original series that all of these characters most popularly are associated with is TNG, the Next Generation.
Yes.
But that started airing at the end of the 80s, so it was super popular, and it was actually super popular here as well. I remember, doing some sports training and then eagerly waiting for the next TNG episode to watch it while we were still doing the training. I was into gymnastics. After training, we always watched it. I think it was on Friday night on the most bombastic, at the most bombastic time ever, which was 8 p.m. or something like that, if you remember those days. But
yes.
I think that they were just trying to ride the wave to popularity and shortcut that popularity of Star Trek into Warp, and then to try to grow the user base from that, which was a significant mistake, which at the end cost them everything.
I think that the mistakes were made, but I don't think that the naming was one of the bigger ones.
I'm sure that the naming
itself
is one of the bigger ones, because after that, everything just went kapoof.
But it's not that. I think that the problem that everything went kapoof is that what they did is that they first were on and off with the way they introduced new features. So you couldn't just say what the idea of introducing new features was. They either did the revisions, so something was slightly fixed, and then they just changed everything. Then they did another revision. Then they released the Warp 4. They first released the server version without introducing the Warp 4 itself, because they said, okay, this is going to be the server that is going to include the Warp and the LAN server, so the networking server part. Then they had, okay, we are going to be releasing entry and advanced versions of the server. Then they supported, they released with Warp 4 that supported Java, because this is one of the big things. They supported OpenGL, which was a big thing, but
1996, that was very forward thinking.
And then they said, okay, now we are going to switch over to naming things completely bonkers. Suddenly OS2 became workspace on demand.
Yeah. I actually have another thought to add to this mix. There was another reason why OS2 went kaboom, and that reason is called Windows 95. Although technically speaking, when you look at the difference between OS2 at that particular point in time in 1995 and the Windows 95, which was a mishmash of 16 and 32-bit code which didn't work all that well, while the OS2 Warp was already a fully fledged 32-bit operating system. So with all of the features that we already discussed in the previous episode, technically speaking, it was way ahead of Windows at that particular point in time. But the problem, number one, was definitely pricing, because IBM did price themselves out of the market with the operating system. And on the other hand, Windows was quickly gaining ground, especially with Windows 95, because it was let's say, more accessible to people, not only from the money standpoint, but from application standpoint. And a lot of people just switched that and were able to use the MS-DOS games and applications in Windows 95. So it was definitely something that influenced. But on technical level, I mean, OS2, I remember seeing some of the videos and pictures when I was way younger and reading about it from the magazines, and those articles were written by people who know what the heck they're talking about. Basically, crashing OS2 at that point of time was second to impossible, while you could easily crash Windows just by looking at Windows in the wrong way and inserting a floppy.
Yes, but on the other hand, there was also one thing that I don't think but I think was intentional. So I don't think it wasn't just simply a thing, and this was piracy.
Okay.
Microsoft was much more lenient towards piracy when it came to Windows 95. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why they did it was to gain market. And comparing OS2 that actually was 30% more expensive than the Windows 95, it not being available in so many copies as Windows, and Microsoft, I wouldn't say being open about letting people pirate the software, but not doing too much to discourage it, especially in these parts of the world. I think this was also an important thing, because when it comes down to the software in the 90s, you didn't have that much money, and we are talking about trying to establish a foothold into something that didn't exist back then. So creating an operating system that was able to run on in a graphical interface wasn't something that people were used to. And a lot of people were just, I wouldn't say deciding to buy a operating system because they wanted to use it. They were trying new operating system just to see what it could do.
Yep.
And the availability of the Windows was much bigger.
Yeah, definitely. And when all of that hoopla kind of like happened, and the remnants of that are that the problem with Warp as a name happened, and then afterwards they had problem with the pricing, they had some technological issues. IBM kind of didn't want to throw in the towel, and they didn't want to give in without a fight, so they had plans to kind of like try to put Microsoft in their rightful place as they thought about it. So one of the things that they did is that they pioneered some of the, at that point of in time, new RISC processors, and wanted to migrate almost all of the OS2 stuff related or development of OS2 and the operating system itself to RISC-based architecture, which at that point in time was a very bold decision, having in mind what the market looked like and how market, let's say, moves were happening. If you take a look at digital, what happened, HP and others that produced RISC processors, it wasn't a good bet, or let's put it this way, it wasn't a sure bet that that's going to be a winning move. So to their credit, they tried. They failed at the end, but they did try. And as a result of that trying, at the end of the day, you also had a small company called Apple, which had a lot of, let's say, good value out of it because of some of the Motorola RISC processors that they used afterwards for a long period of time. So there were positive influences on the market in general, but soon enough after all of that happened, they just kind of threw in the towel.
The other thing was also that what I must mention, and I will say completely open, that I just refreshed my memory by reading the Wikipedia article, because I forgot about the blue spine and the red spine thing.
Okay.
Being two versions, one being able to support Microsoft Windows natively, and the other one not being able to do it. Mm-hmm. And the thing being...
they had to buy a license for the Windows compatible one. That was the problem.
And the thing was that the blue one was more expensive because it included the Windows. Mm-hmm. And in order to run a Windows application, they actually included Windows inside the installation, and this made it more expensive. And since people already got Microsoft Windows with their computers, mm-hmm. they didn't want to buy Windows again. Mm-hmm. So the thing was that basically what happened is that you bought yourself a computer with Windows. Then you decided you're not going to buy the version of Warp that was compatible with both Windows and Warp. Mm-hmm. So you got two different operating systems. And way back then, when we didn't have virtual machines and we didn't have anything other than dual booting, this created a big problem.
Yep.
Especially since there were no dual boot systems other than Lilo. Mm-hmm. And the thing that Warp also did, which I don't remember how it looked like, but I remember that it existed. There was a way to dual boot OS2 and Windows.
Yep, I remember that. And we talked about it in one of the previous episodes, that it was dual bootable.
Yes, but the thing was that since you, or the average consumer, didn't buy something that included the ability to run both binaries, mm-hmm. the only real thing that made the distinction between OS2 and Windows was lost. Mm-hmm. You had to run two different operating systems separately. And this was one of those things that were simple, small, but made a difference.
Okay, I agree. And I mean, when you look at the timeline after that, so in 1996 they released OS4, and then they, as a part of that, they revamped what was very familiar workplace shell, bundled some additional tools like Java and development tools, whatnot. And at the end of the day, what happened is that they, as you said, renamed that to Workspace OS, whatever it was, and they afterwards threw in the towel and fired something like 1,300 people who used to work on that. And the remnants of that were basically, buried alive in a sense. IBM said that they're no longer going to create new versions of OS2. And they're just going to continue selling it to 2001, and some of the contracts that they had meant that they supported it up till 2004, 5, 6, 7. I don't remember which year, but it was...
I think it was starting to 2006 or something. Yeah. But the thing is that if Wikipedia is to be believed, they were spending close to $1 billion per year on development of the OS. And this is an insane amount of money. Mm-hmm. give or take $1 million. The thing is that IBM wasn't the only product that IBM had, and the amount of money they spent on it wasn't profitable in any way or form. And this is just one of those things where Microsoft was making money out of the cheaper product simply because they were able to both market it better and they weren't pricing it as high as IBM did.
Yep.
Because IBM was trying to create an image of a company that is selling a server product to end consumers.
Well, if they didn't have their mainframe business and some of the other things that they had on the side, the OS2 fiasco might have actually spelled the end of IBM.
Yes.
That was easily something that could have happened.
Yes.
So they avoided that, luckily. And actually, if you look at the timeline of stuff, what happened after that, and we were very much a part of this, and you are going to remember it. So near the end of the OS2 support cycle, whatever it was, I think it was 2005 or 6 or 7, actually in the, what was it, December 2004, I think, they sold their PC division to Lenovo. You remember those days? They sold first the hard drive business and then the entire PC division.
No. The first they sold the printer division.
Yeah, I know. But
to Lexmark.
Yeah.
To Lexmark, and this was I think this was the template, because they realized that they can actually sell a division of IBM and not waste any sleep over it, because it actually meant that the customers were happy and IBM didn't need to support anything.
Yeah.
They sold the PC division, which was completely. This is one of those things that I remember vividly, because the thing was that they were losing something like $1 billion and something per year on the PC division, and then when Lenovo got it and bought it, they turned that in a year or 2 years into $1 billion per year profit.
There's one more reason why they did that.
Yes, the support.
No, there's one more, much bigger reason. Because of the problems with IBM disks. There was a class action lawsuit that was looming on the horizon for them, because they didn't want to support that. Those were the years. I remember interviewing some people from IBM about this.
Yes, and I remember when they actually closed the factory here in Hungary.
In Hungary, correct.
Overnight, because they actually had to close it because the number of defects was so big that they decided that it is better to close the actual factory than try to remedy the problem. But the thing was that also IBM included support contracts that were much more lenient towards consumer than what they could actually manage. They were supporting. I remember that in 2005, 2006, I had a colleague of mine who was trying to buy. It could be even in 2010. A colleague of mine was trying to buy a PS2 compatible floppy. And IBM actually had it on
PS2
stock.
compatible floppy.
Yes.
The hell is that? PS2 is keyboard and mouse connector. Explain that.
No.
I know what you're talking about, but explain.
Yes, later it was, but way back then it was microchannel, then PS2 floppies, and the thing was that they had microchannel floppies available on stock for something that was discontinued 15 years before.
They still do that. They did that many times before, and kept a lot of spare parts and whatnot all the way into decade into the future. And they probably still have, for the ATMs that you mentioned, they still have quite a few of those all around the world, most probably, and they're still doing some maintenance for them.
Okay, but what I know is that how they are pricing those parts, and I realized why it is so.
Yeah.
Because the last time I checked, and it was a couple of years ago, a regular 100 megs network card branded by IBM was something like $600.
No, that's cheap.
So actually they are not losing money on those spare parts.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't actually insinuating that they were. There's a reason why they kept them. Okay, after all of that hoopla happened, so mid-2000s, basically what happened was that thousands and thousands of OS2 fans, and there are still quite a few all over the world, spent the better part of the next, I would say, decade or so trying to get IBM to open source OS2.
Yes.
It was a big movement because although there weren't all, let's put it this way, Windows users were in the millions. Let's say that OS2 users were in the thousands or tens of thousands. Doesn't really matter. But those thousands or tens of thousands were very, very, very loud.
But I would say that you are missing probably an order of magnitude there,
Well,
because
it's possible.
I would call OS2 users into millions, probably including all the banks and everybody else who was using it. But
Banks
yes,
were not
users
petitioning for open source. I'm talking about the
Yes.
desktop.
The regular users were probably into tens of thousands, but they were actually being very loud.
Yeah.
This is one of the first instances where people were trying to get something open sourced. The only other instance that I remember was when Netscape was closing down.
Yeah, I remember that as well. Yeah, that's a good.
And but the thing was that there was a particular reason about OS2. Since they were the first operating systems to correctly use protected mode on 386, I think that people actually, without knowing it, actually understood that this was one of the better things in OS2.
Yes.
Because this was the thing that we have already talked about. This is the thing behind the OS not crashing every time something in DOS crashed, because they were able to create a virtual environment for the DOS machine.
There was one other thing that people were very loud about when supporting OS2 and bashing Microsoft at that time, which was related to multitasking. Which OS2 had a real multitasking, while the version that Microsoft had was semi-multitasking at best.
But the thing was the difference between talking to the 286 and 386 processor, which Windows 95 couldn't do.
Yeah.
Windows 95 was too close to normal 286 mode, and it was too close to DOS, basically.
Yeah.
Too close to DOS for comfort. So what happened is that they actually, and this was the difference that was made and is made every time when you are creating an operating system or trying to stick something at top of something else. The same goes with virtualization and trying to create virtualization inside an operating system versus trying to do it on bare metal. This is the reason why Broadcom's product was better when it was available for the wider market. This is also the reason why Hyper-V is not going to get any more market when they decided to discontinue the free server.
You just cannot help yourself but bash on everybody.
I'm not bashing. I'm just now thinking about the tens of billions of dollars being completely wasted in the last couple of months by people trying to switch and understand what is going to happen with that virtualization / systems.
Can I ask you a simple question? Why the hell do you care?
Yes. Because I'm trying to make I'm going to go with seg into try to explain that right now we are in the middle of everything being torn apart and then being put back together.
Excellent. That just means more work for you and me.
Yes, but virtualization is going through complete overhaul. Operating systems are going through complete overhaul.
Excellent.
Technology behind CPUs is going into complete
Excellent.
overhaul.
Just sounds like 80s and 90s again, so it means that it's going to be interesting.
But I think this is 80s and 90s combined together with ADHD.
I agree.
And
with less big steps.
Yes, and with everything being actually thrown out there in alpha versions and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And this is at the same time comforting, because I like new technology, and I would like to see some of the things play out as soon as possible. But on the other hand, it creates a hell of a problem with the market, because nobody knows what to do and what the reality is right now.
Okay, so after all of that, IBM stopped selling even the server version. Then Ecom Station took over some parts of the support. And after that, we come to the modern era of OS2, which is Arcanoe. So they basically picked up OS2 and started working on a new version of it. So the latest revisions are 5.0, those something or something like that. And you can run them on 64-bit hardware. It has physical address extensions. It can use the remaining of 4 plus 4 gigabytes of memory as RAM disks. I read about this. So this is something that we used to do in Windows as well, with some of the products that we bashed in one of the previous episodes. And you could also do GPT disks, so you could do UEFI boot and whatever with modern motherboards, because they needed to do that if they wanted to support any kind of modern, let's say, hardware platform. And also they have all of the usual suspects, the networking part and whatnot. So all of that shouldn't be a problem. I also saw somewhere a couple of months ago, I saw an interview with, I don't know if it was the Register or somebody, with one of the Arcanoe guys describing what the state of the OS2 or Arca OS as it's called nowadays is. And basically it's a fully fledged operating system, not just a repackaged, rebranded OS2. It has all of the necessary modern day amenities and UEFI, as I mentioned, secure boot, easy to install. You can do GPT. You have all of the support for all of those different binary versions that I mentioned earlier, and probably even some more on the way. And all of that actually makes it quite a viable product. Hence the reason why I said that we have to get you to try that either for free, or we're going to get you a license and you can try it on a physical machine. God knows you have more than enough of them, and or on a virtual machine if you just feel like a cheapo.
No. It must go on the primary production machine, and it has to be the one that I'm streaming from, because
Correct.
Otherwise it wouldn't be the job done right.
Yeah, it would be a test and dev test.
No. It has to be. I'm protesting always. Production testing is the thing that I do. So it has to be done. But on the other hand, I want to now, once we are finished with the OS2 saga, I want to just go and do a little rant, or to be more precise, I want to go back in time and talk about something else that IBM did a decade before, when they blew up OS2 and basically turned a product that was completely fine into something that didn't make any sense.
Okay.
So, do you remember PC Junior?
Yes, I do. I know what you're talking
And
about.
The reason why I mentioned the PC Junior was that PC Junior actually followed the same line of reasoning and the same line of marketing and everything else as OS2.
Okay.
But in a smaller time scale.
Okay.
Basically, what they did, they created a new product that's competitive. They priced it too high.
Yep.
Then once they realized that everything was bad about it, they did even better than OS2. What they did is they actually lowered the price.
Okay.
And then they were able to actually outsell the Apple that was available at the time.
Lord knows how.
No, but it was just cheaper. Because the PC Junior was, I'm just checking on the prices. It says that with the new hardware options at lower prices, the PC Junior was $1,000 less than a comparable PC. So basically, they were trying to lower the price point for their own PC because they wanted to sell the older version of the PC, and it made sense. And then
this is where the Clone Wars came from.
Yes. And then the problem was that they actually decided that they are going to stop the discounts, and then nobody bought the PC Junior anymore.
Of course.
And the rumor was that they actually had up to 500,000 unsold PCs on stock.
Okay.
And they were keeping it into the late 90s, start of 2000. And then slowly moving them out of stock and basically into into dumpsters or technological recycling companies. But the thing was that the thing that I just was amazed about with PC Junior was that the product itself wasn't that bad. It was just expensive. The same thing as with OS2. It even had one thing that came to the market much later in a working version, and this is the wireless keyboard. They actually created the wireless keyboard, based on infrared, and then it sort of kind of didn't work, and it had keys that people were either calling inferior or completely unusable keys, because they were more or less a crossover between the keys of ZX Spectrum and old keyboards that nobody liked. But the thing was that by itself the product wasn't bad. The marketing was bad, the pricing was bad, and what IBM did with it was completely bonkers.
There's something that you need to know.
Yes?
There is a PC Junior on eBay waiting for you.
No. I don't need that piece of history. Let it be there. I'm just going to, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to go into new hardware, because right now I have a small goal to make, and this is I want to save the money for when Intel actually realizes that ARM is the way to go, and I want to buy
Intel ARM.
No, I want to have my money ready when Intel releases something that's going to be RISC compatible.
You do realize that all of the Intel X CPUs are internally RISCs for the past 25 years.
Yes, but I want something that's going to be marketed as RISC processors.
Yeah, they used to have a line of CPUs that was RISC based. They tried to kill the x86 multiple times. We will do a future episode about a series of Intel CPUs, as we announced last year that we were going to do.
A series of all the times that Intel
tried to kill x86.
Tried to kill itself, x86, and everybody in between, and continually failed to do so.
Yeah, they actually tried it multiple times. We should talk about x86S as well, and a couple of other things that have happened since then. But I was just very, very amused noticing that there's a PC Junior for $262 available, and people are actually bidding for this on eBay.
No.
You had your portfolio. You're happy.
Yes, I'm going to right now put a stop on any hardware coming into my house, because I was just in the last couple of days I was trying to create a studio where I could actually record, and I realized that I have way too many old computers.
I know one other place where you have way too many computers waiting for you to solve the problems of them and use the aforementioned computers to record some stuff, and then so that we can throw them. It's called our office.
We are not going to throw them. We are going to make a side-by-side comparison between the Alpha, I know what you're talking about, and the HP. I have a old DeckStation that I want to compare to Alpha. So
I'm bitterly disappointed at you. I thought that you're going to say that you have HP Itanium or something.
No, but give me time. Give me time. Anyways, let's finish this thing off.
Okay, so so we can announce that you're going to try the new version of OS2, basically Arc OS, at a certain point in the future, and then we're going to have a nice little chat about that.
We should even go and once we do that, we can go and do a little bit of walkthrough of how the operating system looks like.
Yes, absolutely, we should do that.
If it's capable of streaming it, we'll see.
Yeah, I remember the good old days of your Behringer audio card and your installation of Windows, and when audio was going in and out for no apparent reason, whatever, random time. That was awesome. So I'm guessing that Arc OS is going to do the same.
If I believe in anything, it would be that audio and video is going to be at least stable on Arc OS.
I'm pretty sure that it won't be. Drivers will be a problem.
But we'll see. But drivers are a problem on Windows, so but nothing is going to change there.
Yeah, nothing new for you. Okay.
Anyways, thank you for joining me on this throwback to the bygone era of actually having an operating system other than Linux be an alternative to Windows.
I'm actually very, very sad that didn't work.
Yes,
That was
me too.
a kick-ass OS.
We are missing the ability of having different operating systems running more or less open source or open I would say open standard binaries. Because what is the biggest problem right now in the computing world is that operating systems have become so complicated that it's not only the binaries, it's everything else. And
containers are a solution to that problem, of course.
Yes. Everything is going to be containerized, and you're going to run Kubernetes on your home PC.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to run Kubernetes in my Google Chrome, as I said.
No. Your Google Chrome is going to be just part of the cluster.
That's awesome.
So we're not going to call them applications. We're just going to call them nodes.
Okay.
And this is going to be
Cool.
it. Yes.
So your node, Google Chrome, is going to connect to my node of Google Chrome. We're going to form a cluster.
Yes, and the storage is going to be some sort of Ceph-enabled storage created over VPNs.
Done. I love the latency
Yes.
idea of that.
No. Web3 blockchain enabled.
Oh, come on. Now you're going into way too obscure technologies.
Web3 blockchain enabled AI supported.
Can you throw any more keywords?
No, I see that the crypto bros are right now extremely confused.
Okay.
Because the Bitcoin has broken through any conceivable ceiling. So they decided they are going to be crypto bros once again. They are also mentioning Web3 because they have to.
Okay.
They are mentioning decentralized whatever. And they have to mention AI.
Yeah, everything has to mention
So
AI.
suddenly they are completely they don't know what to push next.
I have an idea. We have to use
okay.
we have to use our alpha to run some kind of an AI engine. That would be cool. It's doable.
Yes, it is, and it's not such a problem to do this. But I don't know, for the love of everything that is holy, why?
Just because it's there.
Okay, I can understand this as a answer.
Okay.
Anyways, let's finish the today's episodes. Thank you for being with us.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me in this throwback to the 90s and yet another IBM's
Unfortunate blunder.
unsuccessful experiment at trying to kill IBM as such.
Yeah. And we'll see each other in the
yes.
next episode.
Yes, thank you for being with us.
Bye.
Bye.